What's going on, guys, and welcome back to WrestleRant, where every single Tuesday, I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the pay-per-views that I watch on the WWE Network, as well as on the Global Wrestling Network, which is where today's pay-per-view comes from, TNA Destination X 2005. And whew, what a show this was. And I don't mean that in a good way. This show sucked. And it had its fair share of, decent to good matches, but overall, the show was just not good, at all. This was just not a good show. Classic vintage TNA. But anyway, so we kick off the show with a 8-man tag team match. It's Team Canada, Petey Williams, Eric Young, Bobby Roode, and A1, taking on the 3 Live Crew and America's Most Wanted. Good opener. It was fun for what it was. The crowd was into it. A nice, energetic opener. Well wrestled, didn't overstay its welcome, went about 8-9 minutes. Team Canada went over to maintain their momentum. I like this. It was a good open to the show. I'm thinking, okay, this could be a fun show based off this match. After that, Chase Stevens taking on Chris Sabin, and a nice another little matchup for the X Division. Didn't go too long. For the time they were given, I thought it was good. Chris Sabin went over with a roll-up. And then afterwards, Chase Stevens attacks Chris Sabin. And then some masked man comes in. Fucking TNA. Love their masked men. There's so many masked men between this show and the other pay-per-views I've watched from this era of TNA. There's so many fucking masked men, it's ridiculous. But okay, so Sabin wins. Stevens attacks him afterward. And Sabin gets saved by some masked man. And they're playing it up like he's some big star. Who could it be? So then ultimately it's revealed to be Shocker! Yeah, that guy, that Shocker, Shocker. I mean, Mike Tenay and Don West are playing this up as a huge deal. Oh my god, it's Shocker! Who the fuck is this guy? Who gives a shit? They're like, oh, he was from a McDonald's commercial. That sounded like the most second-rate thing I think I have ever heard from a commentary team in TNA. They're making a big deal about the guy who was in a fucking McDonald's commercial. Literally, Mike Tenay goes, the guy from the McDonald's commercial is here in TNA. Oh my god! It's not sarcastic either. It's like, who gives a shit? Who cares about Shocker? What? That was so stupid. The match was fine, but the big reveal of the masked man was such a disappointment. I've never seen that guy before in my life, and who cares about a guy from McDonald's commercial? He was athletic. I'll give him that. He had a nice little run for himself here. Not tenure in TNA. I don't know how long that lasted, but laying out Stevens on the outside with a tope suicida or whatever the fuck it was. It looked impressive, but as a surprise, no one gave a shit, at all. In a Texas bull rope match after that, we had Dustin Rhodes taking on Raven. This really was not that good. Their last match was not good either. This was not much better. Thankfully, it was kept relatively short and not so sweet. This just, by all accounts, sucked. And Rhodes won, beating Raven. Any heat that Raven had was pretty much gone by this point. So Team Canada reemerges afterwards to lay out Dustin Rhodes. Then America's Most Wanted made the save. So to further that feud from earlier on, but as a match, this was not good. Over in about 6 minutes, Rhodes won with a bulldog on a chair, which looked terrible. Finish aside, the finish was bad, but even the match itself was just not good. This feud was not good. If you thought that wasn't good, this was even fucking worse. So, I don't know if you remember that, or remember this rather, but there were a few segments on the past few, this angle had to have been running for a few months by this point. But I remember they mentioned it on the last TNA show I talked about. I think the last TNA show I talked about was Against All Odds, I think 2005. So anyway, on that show, Dusty Rhodes said to Tracy and Trinity that, listen, if you put together a team, both of you, respectively, if you put together a team, whatever team wins, I think they get a contract. I think that maybe the stipulation was that they had to have not been under contract at TNA. I have no idea. So anyway, whoever team wins on the next show becomes my assistant, because Dusty Rhodes was the DOA at the time, the authority figure in TNA. So Tracy brings in a tag team called the Disciples of Destruction, and I fucking forgot who they were. The Harris twins, the Harris brothers, Don and Ron, were fucking terrible, and I think have only done anything bad by TNA. Anything negative associated with TNA comes from these two. They have never done anything to help TNA, from what I can understand. So they're in this matchup, represented by Tracy. or Tracy is represented by them. And then Trinity brings in a tag team called Phi Delta Slam. Phi Delta Slam. Phi Delta Slam. Who gives a fuck? Who gives a shit? They both suck. This match was terrible. It was over in 10 minutes. 10 minutes of my life I cannot get back. After like what looked like a big boot from one of the members of the Disciples of Destruction. I don't know what the fuck this was, but it just was not good. This was a fucking disaster. So Tracy becomes the assistant to Dusty Rhodes. Could that have not happened in like a fucking backstage segment without doing the match and wasting time? Because this was terrible. And if that wasn't bad enough, if that fucking wasn't bad enough, the string of bad matches on the show continues. With Monty Brown taking on Triton. So Monty Brown is great. The guy was a great athlete. He was over as a babyface. More on that later. Triton sucked. They were playing up his debut on TV in the weeks before this. I think they even played it up at the Against All Odds pay-per-view. They were playing up the arrival of Triton and how big of a deal he was. Showed up, terrible. Triton, terrible wrestler. Not a good gimmick. The guy sucked. So they have a match. Literally 30 seconds in, Triton tries to pick up Monty Brown, fails, and just dumps him on his head. I'm like, this is not going to go well. The match was just not good. Like, at all. Some masked man comes in to thwart Monty Brown's victory. Monty Brown beats the shit out of him. So here's what happens. He does something where he like gets knocked out loopy. Monty Brown, that is. Hits the pounce on the masked man. Pins him for the 1-2-3. The stupid ass referee makes the count anyway and rings the fucking bell like he won the match. But the masked man wasn't in the fucking match. So why would they ring the bell? It made no sense. So Triton escapes. They tease the feud continuing, despite what happened later on, and I'll talk about that at the end. This was atrocious. That was one of the worst finishes I've ever seen, if you can even call it a finish. I don't know what the fuck that was, but it was bad. It was really, really bad. And then, worse yet, after Monty wins, I know he's still a little loopy, but the crowd starts chanting, "Take the mask off," because they want to know who's underneath the mask. But Monty Brown, after finding out that he did not pin Triton, he just walks off. Does not unmask the masked man, despite the fans wanting to know who the fuck it is. Made no sense. This was so fucking stupid. I cannot emphasize how dumb this was. Thankfully, we got a good match after that. Something of a good match. It was a Falls Count Anywhere match between Jeff Hardy and Abyss. Their last match was kind of like a garbage match and really was not that good. This was a lot better. They took the match all around the arena. Falls Count Anywhere, which is what you should expect from a match like that. I thought they put together a nice little hardcore brawl. Went all around the arena, like I said. And, they worked in some fun spots. It woke up the crowd, thank God, after like a last terrible 45 minutes of the show. This woke them up, thankfully. And it was good. Jeff Hardy won with a twist of fate on a ladder. And then Abyss attacked him afterwards, apparently to keep the crowd alive. Or apparently to keep the feud alive. I'm not sure why, after the babyface won here. I think Abyss won the first match. I don't know, but it was good. It was good for what it was. It was kind of like a garbage, hardcore match, but like in a good way. Like a train wreck, like a lot of shit going on, but in a good way. The same could not be said for the following match. It was Kevin Nash versus The Outlaw, because TNA did not own the rights to Billy Gunn's name. So they called him The Outlaw. This was terrible. It was a first blood match. Terrible. Fucking terrible. The match sucked. Went way longer than it needed to at 11 minutes long, which usually is not a long time, but when a match is this bad, it's a long time. So anyway, Jeff Jarrett comes down to ringside after the Outlaw, Billy Gunn, whatever, gets busted open by Kevin Nash. The referee goes down because, surprise, surprise, this is TNA. Kevin Nash goes down, busted open, the Outlaw gets busted open by Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash seemingly wins, but the referee is down and out not to see the blood, so we can't declare Kevin Nash the victor. Kevin Nash gets thwacked over the head by the NWA World Title belt by none other than Jeff Jarrett, because they were once associated at one point in time, and were actually responsible for one of the worst TNA main events ever on the last show Against All Odds. So that feud is not yet over. Kevin Nash starts bleeding, and meanwhile, the Outlaw is covered up by like new skin or some shit, I don't know, by the attorney of Jeff Jarrett and some person in a fucking doctor's coat. a lab coat. Why? I have no idea. But he does that, and it takes him like 10 minutes to cover up the blood. This finish was terrible. Absolutely terrible. A boring match anyway, but the match sucked. And even a worse finish. I could not even believe this even made the air. And then Kevin Nash attacked the Outlaw afterward, because why the fuck not? In the Ultimate X Challenge match, now this was good stuff. Now the Ultimate X matches, anything involving the X Division Championship, really saved these shows. Let's be honest here. This was like the peak of the X Division. And they saved these god-awful TNA pay-per-views. So it was AJ Styles, I believe the defending champion, taking on Elix Skipper, Ron the Truth Killings, and Christopher Daniels. And after that amazing Daniels and Styles match on the last show, I think it was like a 30-minute Iron Man match, I think it was. They did it again here. Not the Iron Match stipulation, but like they ripped it up again here and once again stole the show. Because this was fucking awesome. So it was not your typical Ultimate X match. So basically what it was a tag team match to start, featuring the 4 individuals. And then once Killings got eliminated, came down to a 3-way, but you could only win by pinfall or submission. Killings got beat by pinfall. I think by Daniels, or maybe Skipper. I think it was Skipper. So Killings is gone, becomes a 3-way, where you can once again only win by pinfall or submission. You cannot climb the cable until the third person is eliminated. That person ended up being Skipper by way of Christopher Daniels. So it comes down to Daniels and AJ, and they just once again fucking kill it. So many spots here I thought were like so awesome looking. The crowd was white hot for this. The atmosphere, the action, the drama, the suspense, everything about this was so well done. Even the finish, which you would think would be a cop-out finish, I kind of sort of liked, because it made Daniels look like such a weasel. So AJ technically wins the match, and again, shocker, referee bump. Oh my god, I did not see that coming. So the referee goes down. AJ seemingly wins the match by taking the belt off of the top of the structure, falls down to the ground. Daniels comes in, lays out AJ with the fallen angel, takes the title and lays down with it. So it looks like he won the match. I thought that was clever. May have been a dumb finish to some, but I actually thought that was well done. Gets the belt on Daniels, furthers that feud. We get more matches from Daniels and AJ for years to come. I thought this was great. Easily, not even close to being the best thing on the show. It was not even close. This thing was by far the best bout on the entire show. And then you get to the main event for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. It was Jeff Jarrett defending against Diamond Dallas Page. DDP saying going into the show, oh, it's my time. And you know what? I'll give it to him. He was over. But the guy was like pushing 60. He was fucking like 55 years old. Like, what? How is it your time, dude? I love DDP, don't get me wrong. But it's like putting a main event for TNA, putting a match that belonged in the WCW main event as the main event for a TNA pay-per-view, to me, sent the wrong message. And the match really wasn't even that good. So the early goings that was all right. It was going okay. And then it all went to shit. Now, mind you, all the interference here was while the referee was up. Because apparently in a ringside revenge match, which I have no idea what the fuck it was supposed to be, it's basically a no disqualification match. So you can have all these people interfere, and it wouldn't even matter. So again, the match was going all right before Conan got involved, Larry Zbyszko got involved, B.G. James, the former Road Dogg, the Outlaw, the former Billy Gunn, Sean Waltman, the former X-Pac, the Naturals, fucking everybody under the sun, everyone seemingly on the roster interfered in this thing. When about 20 minutes, it's like, okay, this is fucking annoying at this point. Let's just get this thing over with. So DDP hits the diamond cutter off the top rope to Jarrett, seemingly has the match won. And then the attorney comes up on the ring apron. Monty Brown comes in, who was in DDP's corner here. He looks to take out the Outlaw, or rather take out the attorney. So he goes for the pounce. The attorney moves, and he hits DDP instead. And it was not an accident. He did it on purpose. So Monty Brown, one of the most popular baby faces in the entire company, goes heel and sides with Jeff Jarrett. And Jeff Jarrett wins. What a fucking screw job this was. And not even in storyline terms, but this was I don't even know. This was a fucking mess. An absolute mess. So you turn one of your most popular baby faces heel, and you keep the belt on a guy who was just doing a terrible job as champion. Because these matches were awful. Awful. The interference, the matches sucked. Jarrett was a good heel, in a basic sense, but the matches were not delivering, and this was just terrible. They were just burying one guy after another. And the one guy who seemingly made sense to beat Jarrett for the belt sided with him. Again, terrible. This was really fucking bad. And that closed out the show. That was it. The last thing we see on this show is Jeff Jarrett and Monty Brown celebrating that he is still the NWA World Champion. This was not a good show. Go out of your way to watch the Ultimate X match. Maybe the Hardy and Abyss match. Everything else can be skipped over. I would not watch Destination X 05 in its entirety. This show was just not good at all. Not a good show. One of the worst TNA pay-per-views I've ever seen. And that's saying a lot. This was just not good whatsoever. So anyway, guys, thank you for checking out the show. I appreciate it. Be sure to like this video, drop a comment, share the video. All that stuff is amazingly appreciated. We will be back next Tuesday, I believe, with my review of Payback 2017. Now, I know that happened before Backlash 2017, but Backlash was this past Sunday, which is why I did it first. If we're not doing Payback next week, and I'm pretty sure we are, if it's not Payback, then I think I'm talking about some WCW pay-per-view, like some Jamboree show or something. It's not another Starrcade just yet. I think it's from 88, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, that's next week. This week, be sure to enjoy your week. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.